Hey yo. Hey yo, how's everybody doing? How's everybody motherfucking doing? It's been a minute. Just wanted to say hi to you guys real quick, nothing too major. Maybe like half an hour. No more than an hour. Just been busy studying, shit like that. Getting these A's, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. So what is today's topic again? Forgot. Hold up. What is today's topic? I think today's topic was something about the fall, shit about Colombia and shit like that. So I'm chill. Yeah, there you go. So mostly Twitter. So this whole Twitter shit that's been going on. Elon Musk bought it. He's made a couple of mistakes, but I think he's still doing pretty good by the company, I'd say. It's growing pains that he's experiencing right now. And obviously people have taken advantage of that. The blue check mark thing where he was giving anyone a blue check mark, that blew up in his face because for some of us who saw what was happening, someone pretended to be Nintendo of America, someone pretended to be Lockheed Martin, and they got a blue check mark, so it was a quote unquote official account, at least by Twitter standard. There was this insulin supplier, and someone made a parody account, but it was official. It had the blue check mark on it, and it said insulin is free. And that company's stock price just dipped. It fucking dipped like crazy. I think a lot of these companies might end up suing Elon because his platform allowed that to happen. And I think we're at a point where the legal system is probably caught up to date and sophisticated enough on the realities of the effects of social media publications to where they might be able to bring a case against them. But I'm not sure if they have yet. If I was a lawyer, I'd probably get on trying to sue Elon for tanking my company's stock price. So they kind of had to suspend that shit. I still think he'll do a pretty good job. It's just that he's got so much on his plate that he doesn't really know how to like manage this shit properly. He's laid off a couple of people that needed to be laid off. So that's good. And I think Twitter is going to be where it's at right now. YouTube is not really at that point where Twitter is at. Because with things, for example, like this live stream right here, it only goes out to my subscribers. And if a subscriber of mine is watching this live stream, unless they physically unless they share that in their social media profile, it's no one knows that they're watching this. But on a Twitter space, it's very different because, say for example, I open a Twitter space, right? If a follower of mine joins that Twitter space, their mutuals are going to know that they're in that space. That's how the kind of mechanism of Twitter spaces works. And so you can have this kind of echo effect, this expanding effect where you listen to someone in a space and then your friends are listening because you're friends with them on Twitter, and then their friends and it kind of cascades on, and it's an effect that YouTube just doesn't have. In addition to all the other shenanigans with the YouTube algorithm, the censoring. I was actually maybe a week or two ago, I was watching just for the nostalgia, right? Because I get nostalgia quite a bit. I'm a nostalgic person, and I was watching the Angry Video Game Nerds. It's bullshit series, and I was watching the old ones. This is like some old YouTube shit. Like y'all wouldn't know about this, but I was watching it, and then I watched a new one. So the way the intro goes, he goes like, what's bullshit. And then he talks about he rants about some shit that doesn't make sense in modern reality. Like, why the bagels at the Wawa have so much cream cheese and shit like that. It's just like old ass YouTube rant stuff. People used to rant about everything in you back in the YouTube days. And then I remember I saw a more recent one because it was a playlist, right? And then he said, what's BS? So he wasn't saying the word bullshit. Because YouTube just be censoring the fuck out of everything. It's not just topics that you can't talk about. It's also words you can't use. And I've heard it said that within the first 30 seconds of a YouTube video, if you swear, it gets automatically flagged. Now, I don't know if they change it to expand that time frame a bit more and stuff like that, but I've noticed that certain words kind of trigger the algorithm, and YouTubers will try to maneuver around that. So instead of saying sexual assault, they'll say S assault. Instead of saying someone got raped, they'll say someone got AR'd. And now there's this new vocabulary. It's like a YouTube dialect that you kind of have to speak in order not to trigger the algorithm. And so I feel like YouTube is really dying, right? I guess this is what the theme of this rant is: the fall, not just the fall season, but the fall of shit that you really cared about and shit. YouTube is certainly one of those, and that sucks, man. That really sucks because YouTube is my home, bro. YouTube is where I learned a lot of things. YouTube is where I've actually met people through a really weird way. I've been able to meet people through YouTube. It's definitely the quote unquote social media I use the most. So it sucks that YouTube is kind of not at the level that Twitter is getting at right now. Twitter is now a more interactive type of social media, because even like back in the day when YouTube had video replies, when you can video reply to someone, that was like a cool ass type of thing where you can actually call someone's bullshit out, not just in the comments, but make a whole ass video about it, call them out on that. Then YouTube said, oh, that's harassment, you can't do that. I was just like, bro, y'all killing this shit, bro. Like, y'all straight up killing this shit. It's not fun anymore. YouTube is not fun. That's the problem. And it sucks, bro. Like, it really does suck that it's like that. I don't really care though. I'm still gonna watch my favorite YouTubers. I'm still gonna upload whenever I want. Whenever I can. It's not really like a popularity thing or like a money thing with me. I like doing this because I like doing this. So for me, it's just kind of like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Luis Rendon, peace. Hey, what's up, bro? But now that we're talking about the fall, let's talk about the fall of Colombia as a nation. And again, this is just a rant. Like, I'm just ranting right now. Like, I ain't even trying to do some like organized shit. I'm just letting you know, like, my country is straight up going to the dogs, bro. It's going to the fucking dogs at this point. The peso is not gonna be worth anything by the time Petro is done. That's just what it is. We're gonna be woke as hell. We're already starting to get on that woke shit. and the country's as dangerous as it's ever been, and it's likely to get more dangerous. So the country's unsafe. It's social culturally transitioning to this woke shit. And economically it's not viable. So like what's the point? This don't make sense anymore, bro. Like this shit is really depressing. Okay, let me show you guys. See what I was trying to show you. All right, so y'all can see this. There you go. That's the peso right there. The peso is dead, bro. That peso is just dead. Look at that. So Petro got elected around this time. And just look at the dive it took, and then look at that. It's going down the drain. So $1 is 5,000 pesos. That was kind of the joke. Everybody thought, oh, the dollar's not going to reach 5,000 pesos. You right wingers, y'all are capping, bro. Petro is the guy. You guys ain't shit, and you guys need to stop worrying. And who even cares? We don't even earn dollars. We earn pesos, so who cares? I don't even care about that. So we elected this dumbass and a vice president whose only fucking qualification is that she's a minority. Like we're literally doing this white people, like we're doing this white people shit, and we don't even got like white people standards of living. You know what I'm saying? So like, what's the point, bro? When you're broke, but you're also woke, like there's no point in doing that. Hey, Jose Miguel, nice seeing you. Good evening. Jose Miguel says it is because the dollar is deflating and Colombian debt is denominated in dollars. I've actually heard of that, because again, the peso is in a way tied to the dollar, and that is certainly something that can be considered as a contributing factor. But I've also seen that Petro doesn't really help the peso become more stabilized, and so his presidency certainly isn't helping in that regard, and the economics are not good, but it's Latin America, and we are exceptional in the sense that we've been very economically stable as opposed to other Latin American countries, especially South American countries. This might no longer be the case, but the economics of a country, and I don't mean to downplay the hardships and the economic ruination that may come in the future. But money comes, money goes. You can always work to get that money back. And I've been telling people this on Twitter. And I haven't been as active on Twitter either. These past 3 to 4 months, I've just been busy with the uni, so I haven't really even bothered to do the social media stuff. But when I was more active, I kept telling people, okay, you can get that money back. Like eventually, a generation or two later, any economic crisis, if you're prudent enough and you're smart enough, you can be fine. You can reconstruct. Okay. What you can't really revert from, as far as we know, because we don't really have or at least I can't think of a case study of this, is when you go woke, when you enter this progressive, intersectional type of ideology into your society, because at that point, you indoctrinate and you raise an entire generation of Colombians to hate their country, to hate what it stands for, to destroy it, Not necessarily physically, but I guess in this case, it does tend to happen. They knocking down statues and all that, and trying to burn churches, and then create a society that is based on what people like Sorgan have talked about, which is the progressive stack, right? And so something that I've really noticed is that the U.S., especially the academia, has managed to export this intersectional ideology to a lot of countries and adapt them to their local environments. And so every country that is westernized or has some significant contact with the West is going to have very similar dynamics to the US, even if originally it didn't. But now it will, because it makes things easier for the American mind to understand. Again, because I guess in the spirit of the US, Americans like everything to be a bit homogenized, to be more understandable, to be more digestible. Salvatrucha says, ¿qué ondas? Hey, ¿todo bien? And I've noticed that. And we make kind of jokes about that. It's like, oh, white people food, white people this, white people that. I like white people, so I'm not trying to shit on them and that. But it is true. It's true that Americans really do like things homogenized and kind of level. And I think that even extends to the geopolitical stuff, to where now in Colombia you have to have the equivalent. I was thinking about this before. I was driving like 2 hours ago, and I was thinking about this. Now in Colombia, you're going to have this equivalent of the white male, right? We don't really have a lot of actual European descendant men in Colombia. Like most of us are mixed. Post the link, bro. I will roast you. Give me like a couple minutes, bro. Give me a couple minutes. I'm ranting. And I saw that shit. Like I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, so now Colombia's gonna have its equivalent of the white male patriarchy, and they're gonna tie it to Spanish colonialism or some shit like that. Even though these two things are very, very different, right? And then there has to be the minority, right? In the U.S., it's Black people, and now it's Mexicans and Hispanics. But in Hispanoamerica, now it's the Indios. And there's some, Afro-Hispanic oppression thing going on there as well. But I think in what really hits more is the indigenous stuff, especially here in Colombia. It's like, oh, the indigenous, they're so oppressed, blah, blah, all this stuff. We even have, I didn't even know we had this, but we even have diversity quotas in Colombia. We have affirmative action. Yeah, we have affirmative action to the point where if you're a mestizo, if you're some just regular ass, beaner looking like Colombian, but if you don't claim a tribe, like you are the equivalent of the white male in the US. Like you don't get shit. It's so weird. But in Colombia, if you're Afro-Colombiano, which is what they call it, if you're indigenous, if you're Palenquero or Raizal, which are two Afro-Colombian subgroups, or if you're internally displaced. So if you're a victim of the Civil War, then you get like the equivalent of, how the SAT scores are kind of weighted in regards to racial groups. Salvatrucha, I'm gonna give y'all the mic at the 30-minute mark, bro. Like for real, I'm gonna post the link and just give me a minute. So, hey, what's up, Macho? Salute. So now I'm thinking, bro, it's so funny because, and again, I'm partly Raizal because my dad is from the islands, and I'm privileged as hell. Like I ain't even trying to deny. Like, yeah, I come from a small town and shit like that, but I'm like, yeah, I'm broke right now, but I'm solidly middle class. Like I've never had to struggle a day in my life. I'm a child of privilege because of my father. He's worked really hard. He's helped me a lot and shit like that. But since I'm Raizal, technically I am a minority. I'm not only a minority in the US, I'm a minority in my own country. So I can claim that. So what this woke shit export it to Colombia, import it to Colombia, what it's trying to say is me, who is studying at university in the United States, I'm studying aviation. It's a very elite type of career. By blood, I'm more oppressed than an average mestizo from Bogota, who, he's like, what, let's say lower middle class, which would be like lower to median middle class. Let's say that in Colombia we call estratos or estrato tres. I'm more oppressed than him because my dad is from the islands. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Bro, it makes no sense. And again, I've never felt as a minority in my own country because, again, I look Colombian, right? I look mestizo, a little Indio, a little, Spanish, a little black. Like, you can see parts, you know what I'm saying? So, and where I'm from, in Melgar, everyone's kind of what we call back home, color cartón. We're all like cardboard color, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you look at the demographics of Melgar, it's like overwhelmingly mestizo and like a couple blacks and a couple whites, and that's about it. So this whole shit doesn't make any sense. And again, for some things, I don't think they should artificially inflate your SAT scores or whatever. That's just stupid. But if you're a victim of the armed conflict, I think you should probably get something from the government. I mean, the government failed in protecting you. That's one of the main duties of the government. That's one of the reasons why we fund it, I would think, right? So if the government failed to do that, surely they have a duty to compensate you. And again, I don't really trust the government as a concept, and more specifically, I don't trust the Colombian government. But all this other bullshit that, oh, you're black, therefore you're oppressed. Like, what the? Like, nigga, are you stupid? In Colombia, really? Oh, they're oppressed. Oh, I don't know. It's kind of cat to me. It's all cat to me. Maybe you can make the case of racism in like this institution or that institution or whatever. I think it's more like a regional thing. You guys really think that the Bogota elite would be okay with having a white ass but country ass child of Mennonites from the Eastern Plains in their organization? It could be, I don't know, maybe the Air Force. It could be the government. It could be a company. Because, oh, they're a fellow white. Like, no, it doesn't fucking work like that. In fact, even in the US, it doesn't work like that. Because we can have the equivalent of that same shit. We can have, like, Fortune 500 company, right? And let's say, the most stereotypical Fortune 500 company, the CEO is Jewish, all this shit, you know what I'm saying? And like, do you think like he's going to be like, oh yeah, my fellow white person from the South, you're a redneck, I will promote you over this black person? Like, what? What? Shit don't work like that, bro. But they're trying to make you think that it works like that. And people are in Colombia, at least the dumb people are buying it. Why? Because Petro is giving them like free food and shit like that, and free education and free everything. Fuck it, everything's for free. Right? That's how you get to people. And because people hate Uribe, oh, Uribe, he was the worst thing. And again, it's the American narrative, and you have to transplant it to somewhere else. Okay? So Uribe is Hitler, right? Because Hitler is the big bad evil of the Western canon. I'm not saying he didn't do some bad shit. He definitely did some bad shit, of course. But it's always Hitler, right? It's never, oh, he's the Stalin of Colombia. Like, no, it's always the Hitler of Colombia. And I'm sure other people have that equivalent as well in their country. Pinochet, oh, he's the Chilean Hitler. Trujillo, he's the Dominican Hitler. Bolsonaro, he's the Brazilian Hitler. Everything's fucking Hitler, bro. There's no nuance. because fucking Americans hate nuance. It's just it's too complicated for them. They can't understand a figure who's really not that hard to understand as Uribe. Again, Uribe started his career as a liberal senator from Antioquia. His party is literally called the Democratic Center, and they call him a fascist. And it's just they call him the next Hitler type of shit. It's retarded, bro. It's so retarded. Anyways, yo, what's up? Who's this? Hello? Fuck, hold up. Yo. Hello? Hello?
Damn it.
Yo.
Yo, can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah.
You've been lost for a while, bro. What happened?
Bro, studies, bro. I gotta fucking raise the GPA of you fucking beaners, bro. That's what I've been doing. But yeah,
It's a shame. Like, I think the whole shit is dead already, bro. Like the Spanista shit.
on YouTube, yeah, for sure. But I can't speak on other shit though. I'm gonna just leave it like that.
Like a Twitter or
a
Telegram.
lot of shit is popping on Twitter. Now again, I don't want to be a backstabber or anything, but a lot of these Hispanista people are getting into these fights with these wignets on Twitter, and I just have to kind of be like, ugh. Who gives a fuck about wignets, bro? Why are we talking to wignets? Should be talking to Latin American people who are with this woke shit, and you're out here.
I honestly, I just saw it like as entertainment for the pandemic, bro. I'm like too focused on my shit, you know. Like,
yo,
getting my bachelor's and shit.
No, yeah, I mean, same. Like, I'm too caught up in my shit to have like strong political. I mean, I have political ideas, but to express them, to work on them, to that type of shit. Exactly, and I understand that this was a pandemic thing for sure. This is because we were all bored and shit. I mean, I still believe a lot of what was said in those days. I still hold on to a lot of that shit.
Oh, dude, it was funny as hell, bro. Especially with the MXPC people. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah, bro. I look back at it, and it's like, yeah, it was fun. It was some fun shit from back in the day. And again, I still got a lot of love for Noel and all the homies, and they know I'm down with them and shit like that.
Yeah, they on fighter complex right now.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yo, Jose Miguel, good evening, man. How's it going?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah. I can hear you, bro.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you support Acción Positiva for the Indians, bro? What do you think about
What is
that?
Acción Positiva? Let me look it up.
It's translated to English, like affirmative shit.
Okay. Acción. No, I don't support any.
Come on, bro. Like they're like only 2%, and they've been through a lot, bro. Like, I totally understand it, because they're like the original group of the Americans that
bro. If you can't cut it, like, you're just dumb, bro. Well, so we got to say something about that.
Yeah, affirmative action doesn't help the people it's supposedly going to help. I mean, one of the consequences of the big consequence of affirmative action in the United States was the complete and total destruction of black upper education, because all the highest performing blacks essentially got sucked out of the historical black colleges into the Ivy Leagues, state universities, etc. So it's effectively destroyed a lot of black education. Like, you can look up the history of the M schools, which were these uber elite, like K through 12 schools among black communities in the southern United States, and they were all destroyed by affirmative action.
Yeah, but it's like a different scenario, because over here in the States, everything's super easy.
Is it though?
Yeah, come on, bro. Like over here, I'm already like with I don't have to worry about tuition or anything like that.
But okay, so hold up, let me put it this way, though. I don't think the standards should be dropped for anybody. Because at that point you're just begging to have a very dysfunctional society, right? I don't support affirmative action even for Hispanics. I don't want to be the diversity hire, bro. I want to make it on my own. Now, that being said, I can meet you halfway on, say, for example, and let's just have Colombia as an example, right? Let's not go into the U.S. because to make it more simple, let's go to Colombia. I would be really in favor of setting up schools in indigenous areas. So starting from the ground up, right? You get them a good education from the beginning, pre-K schooling, whatever. We can promote homeschooling as well for community schooling for these indigenous communities. So we'll teach them, the regular, what they call the quote unquote white man science, that type of stuff, math, physics, all that stuff. I'm also down to having them be taught their culture as well, to preserve it, that type of shit. And if they're smart enough and if they can make it to university, then that would be good for them. But to have them artificially inserted into university, I mean, they're going to burn out. They're going to drop out. I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens with a lot of Hispanics and blacks at Harvard, for example. They get in on some diversity shit, realize it's too hard, and they just drop out because they're like, nigga, like I can't do this. Like, it's too hard for me. And the same thing's going to happen to the Indians, don't you think?
That's essentially the Russian model that you're describing. But yeah. Anyway, in terms of like how to handle, you can you don't even have to go to the Russian model. You can go to the Spanish Empire. It functioned as a subsidiarity. So like practically all the tribes had self-rule. They're a part of a greater collective, but underneath the crown. But they had their own. They took care of their own affairs. They managed their own, educational standards and how they did stuff. It's very comparable to how like Russia has, multiple autonomous, governments within it. With the most, famous one, of course, being Chechnya.
Yeah, definitely. And now that you mentioned the Spanish model, someone said on Twitter once that they're trying to make like not a joke, but like a funny observation on how the plurinational model that Bolivia adopted is kind of like a broke Indio version of the Spanish imperial model, where they want to kind of get away from this very French Republican unifying, but also like homogenizing type of political thing, because the French are really into just making everything French. It kind of destroying the local culture, and that's what a lot of liberal republics kind of tend to do. But then Bolivia kind of did this plurinational thing where, each individual ethnic group's rights are recognized and they have their own little thing going on. And it is similar to, as you mentioned, the Russian, the Spanish model, where everyone recognizes that there is one tent, like one big tent, the Spanish tent, the Russian tent. And yes, you can be a Catalan, you can be Gallego, you can be Castilian, but at the end of the day, you're all Spanish. And it's kind of interesting how in Latin America, the French liberal continental model has really destroyed a lot of our indigenous heritage, because as we know in a lot of parts of the Spanish Empire, they still use a lot of the indigenous language as the local vernacular. This happened and I was kind of shocked to learn this, that in the Spanish Empire in Mexico, some of the settlers were using Nahuatl to kind of speak with the natives, and that kind of went away during the post-independent era. So it wasn't the Spanish who killed off the native tongue. And I'm not saying that this happened all across the empire. There are some other cases, but that was kind of generally the trend. It's that they wanted to add to the tapestry, and then the independence, liberal continental people, they wanted to homogenize everything. But we're not fit for that. We always kind of want to seek the plurinational model, even if it's the broke Indio version.
It's fascinating how the Yeah, like just to harp on that, like like when I was doing my own research into the history of like the post independence or post revolutionary period, you had forcible homogenous, forcible use of Spanish, whereas before, it wasn't required. People had their own tongues, etc., and laws that were translated or laws that would be issued in both Spanish and Nahua and Maya were suddenly just issued in Spanish. Um, and you also even had, this was an interesting part, they actually had forced mestizaje at the end of the gun in some places, like Paraguay was one. But yeah, that is just really fascinating where it's
Yes.
like that which is natural suddenly got forced. And that's part of where I'd put it as um, like in terms of ethnogenesis, like the ethnogenesis of Hispanidad was interrupted by the revolutionaries, by the Napoleonic Code loving Masons, essentially. Uh, it's what was it Simon Bolivar's last words? My God, I destroyed my people." That's a very accurate statement on his part.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more it kind of trips me out, because again, people have this literal je ne sais quoi that's kind of in their subconscious, but they can't really express it properly because it's so removed from them, but it's also so genetically tied to them. Because I mean, we are a very very regional people. Um, all across Latin America, right? The costeños are always going to have some beef with the paisas, but they always see themselves as something greater. So they like the macro thing, but they also want their micro thing. And again, this model really has not been working for us. So it's just funny. It's
Yeah.
almost like natural. It's instinctual.
Yep. The Enlightenment nationalism just doesn't work, and it forces homogenization. It prioritizes a popular national culture over local folk cultures. That's the fundamental problem. Like Enlightenment nationalism was the preparation of laying the groundwork for globalism. Once you destroy the local cultures and you have a national popular culture, then you homogenize all those into one global culture.
Exactly. And I don't know, Jose Miguel, if you were listening to me before when I was talking about how the American intersectional model was being exported to other countries, but with their own, but it's being exported and it's kind of being given a local flavor to it. So now every country that's tied to the US has their own version of the white male oppressor, even if there are no actual white men in that country.
Yep, it's the nature of America. It forces its model on everyone else. Compare that to Russia. They don't even force the minorities within their own country to be Russian. If matter of fact, they actually do the opposite. They encourage, like you go to Tatarstan, and the primary language that's taught is Tatar.
Yeah, and exactly, and you go to Chechnya, and it almost feels like Russians are tourists in Chechnya, and I've seen some documentaries, and when the Russians get to Grozny, and like it almost feels like they feel like they're tourists in Grozny, but not in a demeaning or like, oh, we're being replaced kind of way. It's like, oh, this is a different part of Russia that I never even knew about, and it's so different from my part of Russia, but it's still Russia, and I'm kind of down with that. I kind of fuck with it. I kind of feel it. It's very interesting how the Russians have managed to kind of get on that level because again, Russia has never really had Western liberal democracy. It went from monarchy to the Soviets to Putin.
Yep, it had a Western liberal democracy for about 7 months. I think it was between
Yeah.
February and October, so 8 months. They had an 8 month Western liberal democracy that immediately became Bolshevik.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like before the Soviets. I thought you were gonna.
Yeah. Literally, there
Okay.
was literally an 8 month period where they were a Western liberal democracy. It's really fascinating because I'm doing some reading on the funding and the support for the Bolsheviks. So, like the Lloyd government for Britain were huge supporters of the Bolsheviks. Much of their funding, I know people mention the Warburgs, but the fact is, and also the Kaiser, but most funding for the Bolsheviks came from the United States. So J.P. Morgan and his crew, before J.P. Morgan died, I think it was like 1912ish or so, he was actually raising money and funding Trotsky and others. His sons and successors at JP Morgan Bank continue to fund them. George Westinghouse, of all people, funded them. There's quite a few American industrialists who were funding the Bolsheviks. It's really fascinating piece of history. And the crazy thing too is this is not like alt history or something. This is like mainstream publications. Even like how like millions of dollars, in 1917 dollars, so that'd be the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars today, was being funneled through the Red Cross to the Bolsheviks. Even it's absolutely fascinating how much like the U.S. really want to get rid of the Tsar. The thing that opened my eyes to that was actually Mark Twain, because he's one of the few American authors actually he's probably the only American author or like famous American author that I actually enjoyed reading. But like you can read him like 1896 and beyond. He would write these screeds calling for the death of the Tsar and for support for the communists, which just blew my mind. That this guy who's seen as an all-American writer was down hard with Bolshevism and was raising money for them all the way to his death.
Wow. America really hates monarchy.
Do you play Call of Duty Mobile? One
No.
quick question.
I actually do, as a matter of fact. Weird that you. Yeah, I do actually.
Okay. Hell yeah! I'm gonna see if we can add you to the clan.
That's
What's
so
your
funny.
username?
I'll let you know via Discord. Yeah. I'll let you know via Discord. But I only play like maybe once a week, so yeah.
Yeah, we play weekends.
All right. That seems about fair. It seems about good.
I play with my kids on
Yeah,
weekends.
it's pretty basic.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody can. Yeah. Just make sure y'all don't play too many video games for sure. But yeah.
I do look
How's
forward
the
to playing.
Bachelor's going, bro?
It's going. This semester's like shit just keeps getting not harder. It's just more stuff. Like you just gotta do more stuff, more papers, more exams. It takes the wind out of you.
Are you near the graduation though?
I decided to postpone it because like next semester I either did five. I was either going to do 5 courses and graduate then, or I could just do 4 and then just do 1 on fall 23. I was like, I'm just gonna do 1 for fall 23 and just chill. I ain't trying to cram. I'm not doing another cram semester, bro. Fuck that.
Oh yeah, I got it. I had to drop 1 class because I was fucking doing too much fucking homework. I dropped the math course, so now I have to take it next semester.
Yeah,
It's whatever though. Cool degree.
it's all good.
You got a lot of internship opportunities.
That's good, man. Yeah. And remember, keep that GPA up. Make sure you get into an internship. I had a career expo about a month ago, actually, at my uni, and a lot of people, like last week, this week, they're getting calls. Interested people are hitting them up, telling them, hey, if you're down, you apply for the summer internship. We got you here. Just come through, Dallas, Austin, Seattle, come through during the summer. And we got you, bro. So definitely hit up those internships because and some people, sometimes they get hired straight off the internship. They're like, hey, you fit the team. And again, yo, guys, and I know Jose Miguel, I know you know this. I'm not trying to say it, but to the audience, most of the job interview and most of what people are trying to see in you is if you can weld together in a team. Because, you show your resume, they kind of assume that you know your stuff. They'll ask you some questions. They'll kind of prod around and see, okay, is this guy for real? Did he fake his degrees or did he forget the stuff that he learned? But the big thing is learning how to work as a team, being a team player. And I've noticed that a lot. It's not just about your skills. It's really about how you fit into a group of people. So if you got that, you're set. You can work pretty much anywhere.
It's super easy. Like on a corporate environment, it's super easy to do shit right, to be honest. Like it's more like on the social aspect that I sort of struggle a bit. You know what I mean?
And you got to work on it. You got to work on it big time, bro, because that's what a lot of companies are looking for. Especially the big ones.
No, I mean it's super easy, like on a company level, like communicating and shit. What I'm saying is like on a social level. like
No,
partying and
that's what
shit.
Nah, I kind of get what you mean, but yeah. I'm sorry, Jose, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. I was just saying the social aspect is what gets you promoted, helps you find jobs when you get laid off, etc. It's the fact is like corporate world. I mean, I've been working now for 10 years, and half the places I've worked at, I've been laid off from. So it's like there's something to take into consideration. Like the big aspect of the social aspect is networking with people, because people get laid off, people get moved to other jobs. Eventually, your company is going to cut ties with you because like currently in a downturn, a whole lot of people are getting cut ties, not just the big tech companies. So it's bigger your network, the more likely you're to find work, etc. I mean, technically, today was technically my last day at my current workplace. But I have an interview already for Tuesday. So just gotta
Nice,
Oh,
nice.
nice,
search.
nice. If you don't mind me asking, what are you? Are you like a finance or
No,
business related field?
I'm in I'm tech, so software, but I primarily work with data, so data warehouses, data engineering. Um,
So
yeah,
information systems or information technology? Because I know it's a little different.
yeah, like I'm more so like okay, so type of work.
Systems.
Yeah, lot of system stuff, a lot of ELT, a lot of ETL work that I've done in the past. Um, Yeah, and as well as I built data. I built one data warehouse from scratch. That was literally the job that I was doing before. So, and I literally just finished building it, and then I got laid off.
Ah, that sucks, bro. That's how these companies be.
Yeah,
Like
in
that.
their
That's what
case,
whenever I work, they usually tell you have to let them know 2 weeks ahead, and I'm like, fuck that. If I don't like that place, I'm just not showing up anymore.
yeah. In their case, it's like they let off like north of 20% of the company in one day. And I get why that happened, but yeah, essentially they cut off everything except for the core team working on the product that's actually going to pay the bills. The thing with the data warehouse is it doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't bring in money. That's for reporting purposes, etc. Stuff that the company wants to have. They do want to monetize the data in the future. But I mean, the good thing is I got to keep my equity, so I still have my equity in the company. And we'll see if they pull through this current downtime. That could be a big payout for me in the future. So we'll see.
Ah, nice. Well, hopefully you didn't burn a bridge because they already know you. Maybe it's just like a recession thing, and then
Yeah,
they're gonna look for people back up again.
yeah. It's the thing is though the recession is going to get bad. The Federal Reserve they're aiming to bring interest rates at least up to 5%, and they will hold it up for at least a year. People have this idea that they're going to pivot down, and they're not going to do that. It's what do you call it? Normally, like the Federal Reserve since 2008, etc. Like their goal was to keep markets liquid, etc. As well as there was an element of keeping unemployment lower. But that's gone out of the window because right now the petrodollar is under threat. Saudi Arabia is going to join BRICS. That's part of why the United States is very interested in election outcomes in Brazil, because taking out Brazil is knocking out one of the founding members of BRICS. It's so essentially right now the Federal Reserve, they are very aware that the dollar is going to die. Their goal is to drag it out as long as they can and to get as much life out of it. So it's not even about controlling inflation or worrying about deflation. Their main problem, if you look at what are the best two performing currencies so far this year, the number two is the dollar. The number one is the ruble. And the Federal Reserve is fully essentially their concern is the ruble. If the ruble does so much better than the dollar, that'll speed up the process of countries leaving the dollar system and going to this basket of currencies thing that Russia is putting together with China and India and others. So that's fundamentally why they're doing what they're doing. And the fact is, it's going to result in mass unemployment. It's going to result in rapid deflation, especially concerning. Yep, exactly, Achilles. It's especially concerning. Oh, little man, I'm talking with people, but I can read you a book later. So yeah, the other part is one of the consequences of interest rates going up. The reason why it deflates stuff is because as we mentioned earlier, Colombian debt is denominated in dollars. So if you suddenly have a shortage of dollars, Colombia has to pay ever more pesos when they're bidding for dollars on the international markets to get dollars that they can physically make their debt obligations. So countries, when their debt goes bad because they can't get enough dollars, like Sri Lanka happened, all of their debt gets essentially, it goes into default, and it's effectively, it becomes worthless. The problem with that is, given how American money markets work, debt in the American in dollar denominated debt is money. So as debt goes bad,
Yes.
that results in even more deflation in the money supply, and it just, what do you call it? Snowballs. So you get more and more deflation and you'll have more and more people overseas bidding for dollars to meet their debt obligations, which is why Colombia is completely and totally screwed unless they essentially just decide to stop paying in dollars and do a debt jubilee. But that's not going to happen because the Colombian government is a client state of the United States. And the U.S. will never, ever permit a debt forgiveness scheme to happen.
So much for our great ally up north. Yeah.
It's not that
among other
bad.
things.
You could be like Venezuela,
But that's the problem.
Like, I know it's
problem.
bad, but
we might get to Venezuela levels. That's what I'm trying to say.
And Venezuela will probably boom, especially if Russia keeps doing what it's doing. Venezuela doesn't have. I mean, if Venezuela can just walk out of the dollar system, then Venezuela is going to boom, even with its incompetent leadership.
That is going to be so ironic and sad at the same time.
Historically, Venezuela was always
imagine all the people in the
exactly. No, exactly. Like, of course, in the 20th century, Venezuelans, they didn't like us Colombians because we were immigrating too much to their country. So, but in the more like Zoomer mindset, it would be ironic for us because we've only ever known Venezuela as a failing state.
True, and it's like, the thing is, in the year 1950, your average Venezuelan was wealthier than your average American. So that's that's just the reality of the situation. Like, and it's funny too, and it wasn't from oil. I mean, there was an oil industry in Venezuela, but Venezuela's largest industry was aluminum refining. So, like during World War II, the P-51 Mustangs, which were dominating the skies of Europe and the Pacific Ocean, they were flying. They were made with aluminum from Venezuela. So, like, even though the planes were made in America, the aluminum for those planes was processed and made in Venezuela.
Yeah, they had a lot of industry. A lot of industry. We used to import a lot of things from them. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting to the point where, and I was already getting to this point, but now I feel like I'm already here. I'm at the point where life is not even real. Not in the I took too many shrooms and now I can't even distinguish what life is and what is physical. But I feel like life isn't even real anymore at this point. This whole politics thing, what the U.S. is doing, and I mean the whole Ukraine situation, this thing is being dragged down. We're in a recession, but at the same time, the government is telling us so badly that we're not in a recession that in a way, it almost fiated itself into not feeling like it's a recession, and everything is so. Like in the Wolf of Wall Street, they say it's a fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a shh. So, it's all you can really do is just stay the course.
I mean, yeah, it's not like we don't have any power or anything if we're just people talking.
In addition to that, exactly. You got to be a realist. You just got to stay the course. Keep working. Find a wife, start a family, that type of thing.
Play with your kids.
Not only are we powerless, there is no incentive nowadays to get really politically involved, especially if you're a dissident, because you're going to get shut down. They're going to cancel you. They're going to take away your bank account. They're going to do all this shit. And so all you can really do is just
work on yourself. That's pretty
much it. What I was thinking is, the attitude that Jim Carrey's character from The Truman Show, Like when he realizes all of it is fake, and like the last scene of the movie where the guy's telling him, "No, come back, stick to the Truman Show. This is the best thing you're gonna have forever." Blah, blah. And he's like, bro, whatever. My entire life has been fake, so I'm just gonna give you one last goodbye, one last fuck you. He does it with a smile. I forgot how he does this. Like, if good morning, and if I don't see you, good afternoon and good night. And then he smiles, he waves, and then he leaves the world of Truman. So I feel like in a way that's the only thing we can do. We just kind of smile and wave, and just keep at it. You know what I'm saying? And in a way, that's very liberating. And I've kind of noticed that I don't. It's not that I don't care about politics. It's not that I don't care what's happening. It's just that I'm not able to change anything, so I'm just doing my thing and helping people in my vicinity. So now I'm just more chill about everything now.
It's the nature of autocracy versus democracy. Like the fact is, in both systems, the little people don't actually have a say. The difference is an autocrat is honest in that in that you don't have a say, whereas a Democrat lies to your face saying that they're going to listen to you when they're not going to.
Exactly. And we've and a whole lot of people have realized it in the past in these past 2 years. Hopefully, I have seen a lot of people kind of wake up, but being very afraid to speak up. But they definitely kind of know it's like, yeah, it's all played out, bro. So you just got to do your thing and just wait for this thing to crash down. That's it's a very Florida thing too. Like even it's a Florida mindset. You gotta wait for the hurricane to pass. There's nothing you can't stop the hurricane. You can just hunker down. And it's funny that I mentioned that because I just went through 2 hurricanes. So yeah, that's kind of the Florida mindset. You just gotta wait for it to pass, bro.
For me, to be honest, it's the personal and also the spiritual part, bro. I don't want to reincarnate. If reincarnation is real, I don't want to, for no reason, come back to this world, bro. Gotta ascend, bro.
Yeah, you gotta just exactly.
Get out of the matrix.
Going back to shit feels kind of cringe, anyways. Like imagine if after you retire, like I'm gonna do like a metaphor for this shit. Like imagine if you retire, then you have to go back to high school. Like what? Why would I go back to that? I already went through that. What is the point of going? Like if you did good in high school, you did good, and if you didn't, you didn't. You just move on, bro. There's nothing back there for you. There's nothing you can do about it. Exactly. You just gotta keep going forward, and you gotta. So Mark Sanders says, and I might just shut this down in a couple minutes. So last link post, if you guys want to do one last minute thing, if you're gonna come through. Mark Sanders says, "What's up with the gentrification of Mexico City by gauchos?" Very simple. Mexico City is a nice place. Yeah, they have pollution.
Have nice
issues
food
and
as
whatnot.
well.
Have very good food, world-class food.
I lived there. I lived there for a year. I went to a lot of fucking places. Their quesadillas are fucking bomb, bro. Like,
yeah, but they don't have
I will
cheese
go there
in them,
every single day.
Fucking
Quesadillas, tacos al pastor. Oh man, and it was cheap as hell back when I was there, like in 2016. It was like 4 pesos for each taco, and since I had dollars, I could get like 40 of those things for hella cheap.
Yeah, but in Mexico City, like it's weird because they call them quesadillas, but they don't have cheese in them. You have to ask for the cheese.
They do have cheese. They do have cheese. Well, at least the ones.
But you have to ask for them.
The ones I tried. Yeah, you have to ask for it. Otherwise,
you have to say quesadilla con queso, which is it's funny. I don't know. I find it funny because it's in the name. It's kind of implied. But yeah, think about it. You're an American. Your city is going to hell probably. For a number of reasons. It could be the drugs. It could be Section 8 housing. It could be the price. It could be a number of things. You can probably get by with a little bit of Spanish, or maybe you already know some Spanish and you feel like you're confident enough to go down south. There's a place that's cheaper safer. Because Mexico is weird in the sense that it's very unsafe, but only if you're stupid enough to get caught up in the realities of living in Mexico and actually like being Mexican and the whole cartel thing. Because in many ways, Mexico is way safer than Colombia, much safer. And I'll explain.
It's because of the size of the country.
No. Like we can even break it down per capita. It's not even about that, bro. I'll bring that up a bit later.
You think
the food is the food is great if you're one of those rootless cosmopolitan, journo, work from home, IT types. If you can literally work from your basement, then why would you work in your basement? You can work in Mexico City, in a nice place near Chapultepec, chilling. You got great food. The tequila's cheap. Why would you not move to Mexico City? Why would you not move to Mexico, period? Again, I like to clown on Mexicans, but they know that I really appreciate Mexico because it's got a lot to offer. And compared to living in America, it's cheaper, it's safer, the food is better.
The thing about Mexico that amazes me, specifically how the United States lies with statistics to make the American homeless problem not look like such a problem, statistically speaking. They actually redefined homelessness for Mexican statistics, at least for how America records Mexican statistics. So someone who lives in a house made with mud bricks and a roof is considered homeless, even though they own the place, because it's considered inadequate housing. That's how the United States makes it, Mexico, on its like official American statistics, they make Mexico look like it has this massive homelessness problem, which it doesn't have.
I didn't even know about that. Wow.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
A lot of my time in college was learning how the United States lies with statistics. I think the famous go-to I do is in terms of like, what is it that makes something corruption versus a charitable contribution? So like in Colombia, a rich guy wants to build a supermarket. He greases some palms, pays out like, 10,000 something bucks in bribes to people to get permits to go through, build himself a supermarket. The Freedom House Index, or the Freedom House people, their Polity Index, or whatever it's called, they will define that as, those as bribes and as a case of corruption. And so, Colombia's corruption score will go up from events like that. Whereas in America, if you're building a supermarket and you give, campaign contributions to local politicians, to various super PACs, and you give, a couple $100,000 to some charitable organizations that have children of the local politicians on the board. That same polity index will mark the latter as being a mixture of charitable contributions and market forces within politics, and will mark that as a good. So that's how they make America look less corrupt than it actually is, because they count formal legal corruption as being a good thing, whereas corruption that's called corruption or recognized as being corruption is considered a bad thing. It's absolutely absurd what the U.S. does to make themselves look good.
and now that you mentioned it, the funny thing is that just this week, last week, 2 weeks ago, this is literally happening right now as we speak. The whole FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried stuff, the super PAC that he was sending money to was literally created by his mom. They were sending a whole bunch of money to the Democrats. I don't know where he is right now. People say he's in the Bahamas or he fled to Argentina. I don't know, but it's like this literally just happened right now. This is current affairs. This is current news. The institutionalization of corruption. But again, Jose Miguel, exactly as you call it, it's not corruption. It's called lobbying. It's called what do they call it? Private interest. And they call it that. All that stuff.
Yeah, that's American politics in a nutshell. It's the same thing with GDP. Like when people say, I keep hearing people say like, "Oh, Russia's economy is smaller than Texas. Russia's economy is smaller than California." That's because they're using GDP, and GDP itself explicitly states it's nominal. It's not a real measure of economic output. It's literally it's nominal in the sense that we say it's this much, ergo it's this much. It's completely and total fiction. There is use to it because Interestingly enough, GDP counts debt as wealth. So the more in debt your society becomes, your GDP goes higher. And it's rather fascinating how that works with how GDP is formulated. But Russia has almost no debt. They have almost no
Exactly.
they have almost no private debt, and so their GDP is going to be super low. And it's interesting because I was reading. I don't debate people on this point when people are like, "Oh, Russia's like tinier than Texas," because you can just look up like British intelligence has published their actual estimations of Russian industrial capacity. So like RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, like they explicitly said the current so the ammo manufacturing, missile, artillery shells, everything, etc., production within Russia's military industry alone is 26 times greater than the entire industrial output of Europe and the United States combined. Not just their military, but even their civilian ammunition industries.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
For real?
Correct. Like you have all these articles they've been publishing saying like, oh, Russia's going to run out. Back in March, they're saying Russia's going to run out of missiles in 2-3 weeks. Russia's going to run out of artillery shells in a month, and they keep been saying that for months and months on end. And the reason they've been saying that is because the U.S. projects its lack of industry on other people. In this case, Russia. And the fact is, Russia is insanely industrialized. And no, they're not just like, yes, they have crazy huge stores from the Soviet period. I mean, Russia has like, you got ammo, you got military depots all over the place in that massive country. But even with that, the thing is, you can look at just their the modern weaponry they're using, their more advanced weaponry they're using, and the rate they're using those shells, etc. And British intelligence was like, yeah, so at an absolute minimum, their ammo production is 26 times that. Like their military industrial capacity is 26 times that of the entire combined West. And what's interesting about that is that's not including the industrial capacity of Iran, which has been supplying some drones to Russia, and that's also not including China's industrial capacity, which dwarfs Russia's. So if Russia is that much larger than the entire combined West, China is like an order of magnitude larger than Russia in terms of industrial capacity. The U.S. has no hope of winning a what do you call it? Yeah, it's a huge giant cup, little man. The America has no hope of winning an industrial war with either of these countries, let alone both of them combined. Oh, you okay? I gotta send you bang this head. 1 second.
Oh. Stand by. You got an injured civilian. Wow, I didn't know it was to that level. Like not even a little bit. I was not aware of the. Yeah, that's so crazy to me. That's definitely one thing that I've always liked about Russia. There are other things that I like about Russia for sure, but just on the government and governance side of things, and you can track me down in my statements. I've said this before that I've always liked the fact that Russia is one of the biggest countries with the lowest debt in the world, and I think that's certainly an example to follow. And I like the fact that a country like Russia was able to set that example, because you cannot find a single quote unquote big country that has that level of those finances as Russia, right? Very economically prudent and understanding that just because it's a country doesn't mean that suddenly economic and financial reality doesn't exist.
The other part too is it's really fascinating how they managed to pay off their debts and build up this industry. I really look forward to like the military industrial history books on this that's going to be written in 20 years. Because the fact is, Russia did reindustrialize rapidly under Putin. And the real question I have is how on earth did they manage to hide this massive military industrial capacity from the West, given that everyone has satellite imagery? And I've talked with some people who are actual military historians in this, and there are some theories One is like all the mines in the Urals. They could have just made them look like they're operating mines, but actually built industrial capacity within the Urals themselves. And it's not like they haven't done that. They did do that during World War II. So that's a possibility. It's something I'm really looking forward to finding out how Russia pulled that off without the United States knowing, because the fact is the U.S. did not expect for Russia to be able to sustain this kind of bombardments continuously, and it's really humorous because it's like every time the U.S. media or the Western media publishes they're about to run out of missiles, they're about to run out of ammunition, etc. Oh, here you go, little man. So, and what do you call it? They launch an even larger bombardment than anything they've done ever before. Like it's just absolutely fascinating. And yeah, for countries that want to get out from underneath the Anglo-American establishment, the fact is Russia is where we got to look to. What is it that worked for them? What is it that we can replicate? And at a personal level, like one thing I see that's highly effective is like the most effective thing an individual can do is get out of debt and stay out of debt. The Anglo-American Empire was built on usury. It was built on banking. And if you want to hurt that system, the best thing you can do is never take out debt.
Exactly. And I'm not saying I ain't saying it's easy though, because there is almost an incentive to get into debt. You have to build your credit score, and you don't have to get into debt to get, as long as you have the cash in hand. If you spend $800 on your credit card, but if you have 800 in cash and you pay that off immediately, it improves your credit score. I'm not saying you have to get into debt, but there is always an incentive to push you to that, because as you said, creating debt is what creates money. So if the banks aren't creating debt, they're not making money. That's where they get paid out of. They get paid out of you being in debt. So it's no surprise that they're always pushing that on you. They're always sending you cards by the mail. It's like, oh, this is a 0% interest card from Bank of America or Express or whatever the hell. It's always the stereotype, right? Americans always deep in credit card.
Well, the thing is, that's actually the root origin of the Hart-Keller Act that developed open immigration to the United States. I know people point out saying like, "Hey, yeah, Hart-Keller, thank you." Yeah, people will say like, "Oh, it's to replace the American population," and there is a case you can make that for Seller, but not for Hart, nor for the people who are backing that bill. The main reason was to keep the financial Ponzi scheme that is the United States going, and in order to keep it going, you need more debtors. And the fact is, America at that point was getting strapped for debtors. That's part of why the U.S. government did push hard for women going into the workforce, because you put women into the workforce, they're earning money, and you can get them on credit cards, debt, etc. It's why divorce was pushed as well, because suddenly one household needs two houses, that's two mortgages, that's more debt issued. It's really fascinating how the central guiding principle of American policy, domestic and international, a lot of it really is based around keeping this debt Ponzi scheme going. And it has tremendous consequences. And the thing is, I can even see this with my own family. I remember hearing Mayor Bloomberg back when he was mayor of New York City when I was there, where he's talking about reasons why mass Hispanic immigration is good, and that was actually one of the reasons he listed was we got them all on credit cards. And I look at my own family, all of my family members who migrated from Colombia to the United States, they're all up to their eyeballs in debt, and no one actually owns anything. The whole WE phrase, "you own nothing and be happy," that's already true for a family here. And the one uncle who stayed in Colombia, he's the best off, even though he thinks he's poorer than his siblings, which I find to be hilarious. He's the only one who actually owns his own house. I mean, sure, he doesn't have much in the sense of he's not a millionaire. He's not rolling, even by Colombian standards, he's not rolling in bank. But the fact is, if you own your own property, you're already better off than most Americans. If you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you're better off than 76% of the American population. So it's it's funny because him and I remember his son is the cousin I'm closest with, and I'm telling him look, man, it's they're really, if you come to the United States, you don't come here to get wealthy. The reason they want you here is so people can get in debt up to their eyeballs. That's it. and keep the scam going.
No, yeah, definitely. And if you're prudent enough about your finances, and I ain't definitely speaking for myself because I got to learn a lot about that stuff. But if you can manage your finances well and kind of play the game, you can get some stuff out of America. Exactly. But you have to stay debt free. You have to live very frugally, and you cannot fall to the temptations of American consumerism. And in a way, it's kind of, if you're not strong minded, it's very easy to get stuck in that mindset of, oh, now I need a Peloton bike, and oh, now I need a 60-inch flat screen TV, and I need my Netflix because if I don't have Netflix, then I'm gonna look weird, and I gotta go out to the club, and I have to get this Ford F-150 Raptor with the biggest and the whatever. Again, if you need it, I understand. Some people do need their pickup trucks because it's actually part of their business or whatever. So
If you're
I'm saying
actually
people who,
using it for work, it's fine. But I also figure
yeah,
if you're actually using your truck for work, I expect it to look like a work truck. I don't expect it to be pristine, in mint condition with a perfect interior. Like I expect there to be, I expect people should clean them for sure, but it should look like it's something that's been worked with.
exactly. And guys, really look at everything you own and think to yourself, okay, is there? Because my dad always, and from a kid, he always told me this, like, son, whenever you're gonna buy something, you got to ask yourself three things: do I want it? Do I really need it? And is it going to positively impact my life? Am I going to be able to use it for something good? And you always got to ask yourself those three questions whenever you're buying anything, right?
The other thing too is, Noel talks about, essentially get married young, start a family, and he's right on that because the thing is like, sure, yeah, wife costs money. Well, the thing is, women in general cost money. They just do, whether she's a wife, girlfriend, what have you.
Yep.
The thing is, even you as a single guy, if you're going to clubs, you're going to bars, etc., that costs a lot of money. It's the fact that I mean, as a single guy, yeah, you could in theory save a lot. I did save a lot because I didn't spend money as a rule, and that came in handy. I was unemployed for almost a year, and I was able to support my family, off of savings that I saved back when I was a single guy living with a bicycle. Because I'd stored that money up. But a lot of people, most people I worked with, who made the same or more income than me, um, they had almost no savings because they were just burning it, on alcohol, eating out, clubs, you name it. It's not, the whole all of American society is designed to separate fools from their money.
Yeah, and you'll get caught up in that whirlwind if you don't notice it, right? Because next thing you know, and again, that's the thing that I've been catching myself up on whenever I'm at uni, because everyone's in that mindset, right? It's like, oh, I need a caffeine fix. Let me go to the Starbucks, even though we have a free coffee thing, right? You can get free coffee as a student. You just go to the student government building, and by law they should give you free coffee, but no, you have to go to the Starbucks. Why? Because you need to get that toasted ice cream sugar cookie crumble mocha coffee latte grande venti with the vanilla pump, blah blah blah, and then they put your name in a cup, and now it's the not Christmas, it's the holiday season, and so you got to get the cup and the with your name and the misspell it, and you put it on your Instagram, your Snapchat. Oh my God, this is misspelling my name. And it's a funny thing, and it's just a whole whirlwind of, I have to buy this because other people are doing it, and therefore so must I. And again, so you guys have to be very wary of that. It's a very sheep-like mindset, and you have to be very vigilant as to why you're buying the things you're buying. Exactly, because we don't.
It's part of the vulnerability of our own nations, as you mentioned, adopting variants of wokeism. It's because they see America as big, powerful, and wealthy, and they're like, well, we got to be like America, and so they copy America, not getting that the reason why America is, big, powerful, and wealthy is because it's the banking center. It's not wokeism that made America powerful. Wokeism is a tool that's used to keep peoples ruled by the U.S. weak, which it's the history of American, from gunboat diplomacy to today. That's its history.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Also,
All
the issue
right.
of housing. I was just going to say, since you mentioned, get a house law. Like, yeah, you can't really buy a house. Buying a house without debt is crazy hard. Trust me, like I've tried, saving towards it, and it's like, man, always out of reach. I'm actually looking at moving my family into a yurt because that I could actually afford to build, and that way not be paying rent, and then use that to snowball into having land, and then on that land building a house myself. That seems to be the only real way to pull off having a house without debt.
Hey, all you gotta do. All right, I'm gonna leave y'all guys to it. I just wanted to show you guys one last thing. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in all of television and movies. I don't watch a lot of TV or movies, but I do know The Sopranos, and there's this very important piece of wisdom that Tony Soprano gives to AJ.
Land, AJ, because God ain't making any more of it.
Very, very simple stuff. Buy land because God ain't making any more of it, and goddamn if that ain't true.
Make it productive.
And make it productive. Exactly. Don't speculate on it. Don't try to be like who, like, yeah. Try to make something on your land as well. It's not easy. I never said it was easy. But you know what they say: the hard road is easy, but the easy road is hard. I want you guys to kind of sit on that for a little bit. All right, y'all have a good one. I might go up to Fighter Stream, and then I'm gonna just probably go to sleep. Gotta wake up early tomorrow. So y'all have a good one. Thank you, Jose Miguel, for coming. It's been great. Might be here next Friday. I'm not sure. If anything, I'll try to post in advance, like, hey, I'm doing a live stream. So yeah, I can come through. All right, it's been a great talk. God bless y'all. God bless y'all, and have a good one. Peace.
Peace.